Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Pedalshift Project. The Pedalshift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments around the bike touring lifestyle. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride, let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/199, and you can email the show at pedalshift@pedalshift.net or call the voicemail hotline 202-930-1109 and check Pedalshift out on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 199th edition of the Pedalshift Project. My name is Tim Mooney, and I am excited to be here for the last edition of Pedalshift in the 100s. It's kind of exciting because this is going to be a preview episode of my solo ride on the Chesapeake and Ohio National Historic Park Towpath. That's a mouthful. I can barely get it out. I'm really excited about this ride because, with all the stuff that's going on in the world, look, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the virus and the things and all of that. But for the most part, I think that I want this show and the next several shows to be more about the joy of getting out there and riding on a bike tour in a responsible way. So I've had a handful of folks reach out and say, hey, look, I'm coming to the show to get away from things. Please don't mention the virus. Look, I'm going to. But on a very limited basis. It's not going to be the main topic of the show. It's not going to be something that's going to dominate the show, but it's happening and it's around us and it's impacting my ride. Therefore, it's going to be a part of it. So all of that being said, this episode is going to be a lot more about the planning process for this upcoming ride. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I know I could use it. I had in my head, as all of you know, really since December, maybe even before that, November-ish, I'd been planning a ride in Southern California, the Missing Link ride. I talked about it quite a bit on the show. Now, of course, that's going to happen. It's just postponed for the moment. We'll get through this and I'll be able to do that ride down the line. But for the here and now, what I have available to me is this amazing resource that is, as I sit here in West Virginia, 7 miles away from where I'm sitting across the Potomac River, the C&O Towpath. And I think that what's amazing about that resource that's available to me, and you may have something similar available to you, even if it's just riding around your neighborhood or finding a trail near you or a park or whatever, wherever you are in the world, we can get on our bikes and be responsible, assuming we're healthy and assuming everything is safe and whatnot, go out there and do the thing that brings you joy. If you're listening to this show, you at least have some amount of joy that you get out of bicycle touring, whether just listening about it or doing it yourself. But I would really encourage you to get out there and ride, so long as you're staying away from folks and you yourself are healthy. I think that it's part of a good way to keep your mental health in check throughout all of this, since so many of us are going to be more indoors and maybe aren't as active anymore. We're not interacting with people as much in the same way as we have. So go out there and ride. And that's what this is all about. So I wanted to really talk about, generally speaking, first about what the ride is, and then doing this sort of in a Q&A format afterwards, sort of why this, what's the C&O looking like, what's the gear, what's my pack list, things like that. So bear with me as I go through all of this. But this is going to be a kind of a classic preview episode here for the C&O. Just a reminder before I jump into all of this, next week is going to be a best of, because I'm going to be out on the trail and I want to be able to kind of edit this all together for you all in a way so that it sounds good and it's part of, episode 200 and going forward. So I think that that's going to be a lot of fun. If you're a member of the Pedalshift Society, you're going to get an email from me, or actually you've already gotten an email from me by this point, by the time you're listening, with the feed. So starting the 26th of March, you'll be able to have access to some quasi-live audio, and maybe even a little bit before that as part of the preparatory work as well, in addition to this episode, just talking about kind of my packing process and things like that. So Pedalshift Society members, you're going to get this in real time. You're going to get all of the audio. And then, of course, all the folks who are listening to the show, who are friends of the show, listening to the show, you will get this as part of episode 200 and beyond. This is going to be an unexpectedly longer trip, as we will discuss in a moment. All right, let's jump into it. I'm going fully self-supported on the C&O Trail. That is what this ride is going to be. And this episode is going to be talking as much about all the preparatory details as I've been kind of rolling through at this point. I feel pretty good from a planning perspective. There's a couple of interesting little logistical issues that come up with just the availability of food and things like that, and I'll get to that in a moment. My intention is to carry everything I need for 4 full days. This is going to be a 4-day ride, and it's going to be a round trip from Washington, D.C. to my cabin in West Virginia and back. It's going to average about 65 miles per day, give or take. I actually need to kind of figure that out because there's actually a road route between the trail and here, and there's a couple of options on how to get from the cabin to the trail. There's sort of the easy way, and then there's the harder way, and then there's the sort of I don't like to talk about it on podcasts kind of way, if you know what I mean. Anyways, we'll get more to that in a minute. I will have a roof over my head for night 2, which will be here at the cabin. As I mentioned before, I'm recording from out here in West Virginia at this point. But every other night, I'm going to be camping. Now, it is entirely possible that I don't end up coming here to the cabin for that night, too. If the weather is good, if I'm feeling good, if I don't feel like climbing out of the river valley to get up here, I may just do camping. But I think I like the idea of doing the round trip between DC and the cabin, between the two places that I essentially lay my head at night at any given time. I think there's something about that. It's something I've always wanted to do. I've ridden out here before. I've ridden back before. But I've always had a vehicle do the other part of it. I've never done a round trip, and that's what's kind of exciting about all this. So why am I doing this? Well, there's, of course, the larger overarching reason why I canceled California, or at least postponed it. I had previously, for that scheduled vacation, for 3 days. But what I'm going to do, just given the circumstances of everything and family dynamics and some other things regarding how we're going to be coming back out here afterwards, where this all lands is I'm going to knock down the vacation days. I've been working at home, by the way, as so many of you have been. I'm going to knock my vacation days down to 2. I'm going to be taking off Thursday and Friday of the week, and then I'll be riding through that weekend, into this coming weekend. I'll be starting, as I mentioned, in Washington, D.C., and like I said, given a few factors, ending in D.C. is easier on family dynamics than ending in West Virginia, and having Kimberly have to drive all the way out here herself with all the dogs, all 3 dogs and the cat, we kind of talked about it and decided, you know what, it would be way better, easier for the 2 of us and all of our dynamics if I would end up back in DC so that I can load up the Jeep and come back out here with all of the family all at once. Just easier with 2 people rather than 1. So that's why it's going to be a round trip. It's not going to end up being a full through ride. There were some elements where I was thinking that I would actually go all the way to Cumberland and then backtrack and come back to the cabin over 4 days and have Kimberly drive out here. But when all is said and done, that's a lot of heavy lifting, literally and figuratively, for her to do. So I don't need to be a completist about this trail. As you know, I've ridden it a few times in my life, and the concept of a round trip between DC and the cabin makes a ton of sense for me, and it fits our family dynamics because when I'm done, we're going to be in DC for 1 more day, and then we're going to drive back out here and probably be out here for at least a week, perhaps more. It's just a little bit more space for us out here. We can travel for the time being. That's sort of how family dynamics are impacting this trip. This trip helps facilitate those family dynamics and our needs and what we want to do. So that's the basic idea on why this trip and why in this way. Next question is, what's the C&O trail looking like? Well, great question. I haven't been riding it very much. Now, it's been an exceedingly mild winter, so trail conditions are likely pretty solid. I know that friend of the show, Preston Page Piper, the Triple P man himself, has been riding the trail in the mid-trail area, as I like to call it, in the Shepherdstown area. Looks like it's doing pretty well. The Brunswick area looks pretty good. We haven't had a lot of rain. That is going to change. We are going to get some rain in the next few days, but I don't expect that to create the really sticky, yuck mud conditions that are so often a part of spring. If we have a heavy precipitation winter, things are a lot harder in this time of year. I typically don't ride the C&O during this time of year because the trail conditions are usually kind of, well, meh. And you combine that with maybe it's a little bit wetter this time of year. We can get cold weather. We might even get some snow in West Virginia here in the Eastern Panhandle tonight, tomorrow. So, conditions just aren't great for a real nice, comfortable ride. That said, because of the mild winter that we've had, I think the C&O may be in as good of a shape as it's going to be all year, quite frankly. But we'll see. That's just my supposition at this point. So trail conditions likely quite solid. There is still, and for those of you who have been listening to the show for the last year or so, there was that outage around mile marker, I believe it was 52. They've replaced it, the Park Service, with a low-level water crossing. Now, I went through that area, and actually I even did a video of that if you check out the YouTube channel. Before the low-level water crossing was put into place. So there's a bridge now. Now, I just rolled my bike right through it and got my feet wet when it didn't exist. So that outage, that old outage, is no longer really much of an outage in any way, shape, or form. In fact, there's that low-level water crossing. I don't think we're going to get enough rain that it will be flooded out. So I think it's going to be fine. I think it's going to be fine. As I mentioned before, we've got some rain potentially in the forecast hitting the trail before I ride and during the ride. So while I expect conditions to be a little bit on the wet side, it's just not going to be that mud bog. There's a portion well outside of DC past Great Falls. And take a look at a map. I'm going to be throwing a lot of locations out at you. You can check it out. Actually, you can check it out on the Pedalshift C&O guide, which I have not updated in a while, and maybe I'll be updating as part of this ride. But past Great Falls, so past, say, around in the mile marker, let's say mile marker 25 to about 35 can be a really gnarly, poor condition trail area. That's would be part of my day one. I don't expect it to be so bad this time. I could be wrong, but I'm also guessing that conditions because of the mild winter are going to be all right. But you know what? This is all going to come out in the wash. You're going to learn much more about this as we go along. Now, one thing that I'll underscore here is that I'm going to have to carry all of my stuff with me. Water is typically not a problem on the C&O because every 5, maybe 10 miles or so, there's usually a campground with a water pump. And of course, this is usually treated water. But at this time of year, the handles are not on these pumps. So as a result, I'm not going to have access to water as lousy as it tastes because they treat it with iodine during the summer months, late spring into summer, and then again into the fall. They remove those handles before winter really kind of hits. So I'm not going to have access to water at the campgrounds directly on the trail. There are a few spots along the trail or very close to the trail where I will have access to what I call city water, basically tap water in some way, shape, or form. So my intention is to use those resources as much as I can, but I'm going to be carrying a fair amount of water with me. I have a water bladder that carries, I believe, 3 full liters of water. Now, when you do the math on this kind of thing, they usually say when you're fairly active, about a liter a day is what you want. I'd like to be able to do more than that. So I may be looking at carrying more water than that. So I've got water bottles in addition to my bladder as well. Now, the logistics on this are something that I'm probably going to talk about more in the course of the podcasts, the tour journals themselves, but there are limited opportunities. So I need to take care and advantage of them when I've got them. So I will definitely be doing that. I expect the trail to be unusually busy. I know that may seem strange, but I think it's going to be unusually busy for this time of year by day use users close into DC, close into Great Falls. There's a big parking lot area there. Also near Brunswick, and then again in Hancock. These are the towns. These are the trail access points where I think that I'm going to have the most day use folks, most hikers, the most walkers, the most dog walkers, etc. So I'm expecting to be using my Belle a fair amount in these areas, even on Thursday, even on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, just because I think folks are going to be out using the trail because that's available to them. If it's proper social distancing to be outside, you should be outside. That was part of my kind of call to action at the top of the show. You should do that too. Just make sure you're staying away from folks, and that's going to be my intention as well. I think I'm, however, going to be the only camper out there on, let's see, that's going to be on Thursday. I'm going to be camping for sure. Probably not Friday. I'm hoping to get to the cabin, but then again on Saturday I'll be camping, and then Sunday I'll be getting home to DC. So on 2 of the 3 nights that I'll be overnighting, I'm definitely going to be camping. The third night, that middle night, that second night, my intention is to be here at the cabin, having a roof underneath over my head. I don't expect to see other campers out there. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. I'm guessing I'm going to be the only one out there. It would be nice if other bike tourists were out there, but I'll talk more about how that interaction would go in a little bit. what's going to be my gear? Gear talk is always kind of a fun part of the tour planning, and this one's no different. So over the course of the last couple of days, I've had some time. I brought my Safari out here to West Virginia. I've got a proper repair rack out here. So as a result, I've been able to really get at the drivetrain, really clean it up. It is in need of, I think, some real professional TLC and maybe even some replacements of some parts, but it's going to be fine for this trip. So this is kind of like one more great ride out here on the C&O before I actually take it to my local bike shop and let them go at it. Another thing that I'd like to do is to, throw some love to the LBSs out there. Because, they're not getting as much business and I would like to give them some business. So that's going to be a post-ride situation for me. I'm going to be riding heavy, as I've kind of described it in the past, for basically three reasons. Number one, I'm going to be bringing my big stove because of the emphasis on cooking and cleaning and needing to heat up hot water as a part of this. And I'm bringing what I used to call the Green Dragon, which is, if you've ever seen these, it's basically a very small stove that screws on top of one of those enormous green Coleman style propane tanks. Now, if you're not in the States, I'm not sure if these are out in Europe or not, or in Australia or in any of the other folks internationally, but this is a very heavy steel canister. It's something I would normally use for car camping or for picnicking or something along those lines. It was the stove that I started off with when I first got into bicycle touring, and I eventually replaced it because I could get better results in some ways, or at least good results from other types of stoves. And this was just a savings of weight. It was a weight savings reduction. The Green Dragon, however, has a name for a reason. It will boil water real quick, real fast, and really hot. It is fantastic, and it's a really great stove. So I'm going to bring that, and I won't have to worry about running out of fuel because I've got a full, I think these are 5-pound cylinders. I'm running heavy. Let's just put it that way. And I won't have to think about it. And then I can just boil up water. I can make myself coffee anytime. I can really cook my meals nice and hot rather than doing the freezer bag cooking, which I've so frequently done to just kind of conserve the small amount of fuel that I'm normally carrying. So I think that this is going to be a much better setup for me. One less thing to think about. And I think that I'll be rewarded for it with the cooking and cleaning setup that I'll have because I'll have such good hot water with me. And of course, lots of soap. We love our soap these days. Cleanest hands ever, right? The second reason why I'm going to be riding heavy is I'm going to be, as I mentioned before, bringing lots of food and water with me. This is going to be a fully self-supported tour. Now, I may be getting here to the cabin and might be able to resupply or change up some things if I'm here, but I need to be prepared to be fully self-sufficient for 4 days because, frankly, first of all, there's just limited options anyways between DC and Hancock to begin with. Now, Point of Rocks has a restaurant that may or may not be open that's right near the trail. And Brunswick has a lot more services, but they may or may not be open depending on things going on there. I know restaurants won't be open. I know the bars won't be open, but there's some mini marts and things like that I might have access to things, but I need to plan on them not being available for me. So that's something that I'm going to be planning to be fully self-sufficient. So I don't need to stop for anything other than maybe water, which I should be able to get from some public spigots or from public water fountains, particularly in Great Falls and in Brunswick. So that's number 2 of why I'm going to be riding heavy. Number 3, the weather situation. I'm going to be bringing a bunch of layers and some wet weather gear because it looks like I'm definitely going to have rain and there's going to be, I mean, not huge temperature swings, but it's going to be very cool in the morning, if not cold. And I think that the temperatures are going to get up into potentially into the 60s or higher. So, and of course, this is a week out, so I think that these conditions may change over time. We're sort of still in the for entertainment purposes only weather forecasts, although not quite that bad. But I am getting a sense that things are going to be quite variable. It's going to be temperature swings and the potential to get wet. So full rain gear, full layer situation, lots of wool. I want to be able to stay as dry as I can and comfortable as I can in the tent. So as a result, I'm also going to be bringing 2 panniers, probably 2 dry bags because, hey, why not? I might as well have all the capacity if I'm going to be riding that heavy, and I want to keep things as dry as I can. I considered briefly dragging my trailer for this. I've got one of those faux bob trailers, and I thought, well, then I could really load up. I could bring my 5-gallon water if I wanted to, 40 pounds worth of water with me and not have to worry about a damn thing. But, you know, the low water crossing at mile marker 52-ish or so, that makes this a bit of a hassle. Maybe next time. I've actually never taken this trailer, which I bought fully intending to use on the C&O, and I've literally never done it. I think I've had it like 4 or 5 years, and I've never used it on the C&O. So maybe in a future one. I don't know why I wouldn't do it on this, but I think that low water crossing is just enough of a hassle that I don't want to do it. I'm also not going to be bringing Belle Starr with me on this as much as I think that she would like to. She's actually right below me right here as I'm recording here in the newish podcast studio setup that I have. I have blankets hanging on the wall here. I should actually put a picture in the show notes about the new podcast setup here at the cabin. But in any event, no Belle Starr because I think it's going to be wet and maybe a little too cold. And it's just one extra thing. I ride heavy when I ride with her to begin with. And I think that 4 days unsupported, I just don't want to be in a situation where I need to call for help. So I think that I'm going to leave her in the care of Kimberly, and she'll be happy and healthy and warm and dry. While I may not be. So no Belle Starr on this one, but maybe in a future one, maybe for a day trip or something along those lines. I want to talk a little bit about my pack list, and I don't want to belabor this too much because just reading a pack list on a podcast is usually not exactly what I call a ton of fun for you, the gentle listener, but I do want to give you an idea of the kind of stuff that I'm bringing, you know, and this is... the kind of stuff that you would think that I would be bringing on a fully loaded tour. Tent, sleeping bag, sleeping pad, pump, spare tube, multi-tool, and tool bag. I'm bringing the whole raft of tools that I've got. I want to be able to handle just about anything. So wrenches and all sorts of stuff like that are going to be coming with me. I'm going to be bringing all of my kind of kitchen-y kind of stuff, spork, knife, cook kit, the Green Dragon stove, as I mentioned. I'm going to be bringing camp soap and a cleaning towel. I usually do freezer bag cooking while I'm on the road. Very rarely do I hate doing cleaning of pots and pans and dishes when I'm camping. I've just always hated it. I always volunteer to cook so other people can clean when I'm on group tours, group camping trips and whatnot. But this one, I think I want to be able to really fully cook up my rice, really fully cook up the pasta. And sometimes freezer bag cooking is just a little, it's just not so great for all of that. Sometimes it just ends up being 3/4 cooked, and I end up being not really happy with the meal. It's great for the calories, but I'm not enjoying the meal. I'd like to be able to enjoy this. So I'm going to actually do dishes while I do this trip. So camp soap and a cleaning towel. Off we go. Coffee kit. I'm going to be bringing either the AeroPress or the drip setup. I haven't decided yet. I thought for a little while that I might do the cold brew technique and maybe just heat up the coffee in the morning. But on second thought, I think that in the mornings, it's going to be cold enough that I'm really going to want a good cup of hot coffee. So I am going to go with either the AeroPress or the drip setup, probably leaning to the AeroPress. And that might also mean that I bring the grinder as well, because you know what? I'm riding heavy. Why not? A bunch of bandanas, a camp towel, wool layers, my puffer vest, because I think it is going to get chilly in the evenings, rain jacket and the hood, my rain pants. It's going to be raining. I need to be ready for that. And I've got the good rain pants now, good showers pants, pass rain pants, and the good showers pass jacket. I am really ready for a good wet ride, way better off than I was for past wet rides. I'm looking at you, Olympic Peninsula tour from a couple of years ago. Holy moly. Long sleeve shirt. Rain gloves, I can't find one of them, and I'm going to have to because that just has to happen. Underwear, socks, including my waterproof ones from, you guessed it, Showers Pass, toiletry bag, hats. I'm going to have a cold hat to wear at night and a ball cap for just off of the bike. My helmet, of course, batteries and cables. In fact, one of the I just bought a new battery that actually does wireless charging for both my AirPods Pro and my phone. One thing that I've noticed is that I can't use wired headphones when I am charging it because there's only one charging port. And I also like the wireless charging. I don't know if it's as efficient as the wired charging, but I just thought it would be easier so I'm not constantly fumbling for cables. So this will reduce things down. I'm going to be bringing a couple of batteries with me just to be on the safe side. Again, I do hope to be having electricity here on night 2, but if I'm not, I know that there's some electricity options in Hancock that I can take advantage of and recharge, but I probably won't need them, but I'll bring a couple of batteries just to be on the safe side, just to have all of my stuff fully charged so I can watch my stuff. I'm going to make sure that I load up my phone with some Netflix opportunities because you can download those ahead of time. So if I'm stuck in a tent and want to watch something, I'll be able to do that on the phone. Of course, spoiler alert, I'm bringing my wired headphones, my AirPods Pro, and my iPhone. I'm going to be bringing that water bladder and 3 water bottles as well. Adult beverages, I may bring a bladder with, I don't know, maybe some wine in it. Technically, you're not allowed to drink in the national parks, but you know what? I don't think that's going to be heavily enforced. Don't do this at home, kids. Of course, I would never do that. Maybe I'll just bring it with me and not drink it on federal property. Yeah. Anyways, so I'm also going to bring my auto lock, OTTO. These are the folks out of Portland, Oregon. It's kind of that strap lock. Works pretty well. I don't intend to do anything but lock the bike up to itself in the campsites, but just in case. Also, if I do have to go into town, I can at least secure the bike. Wallet, I don't intend to be using it, but I want to have some credit cards and maybe some cash on me. Sleep clothes, I love to have the clothes that I have exclusively for sleeping. Those will be in a separate dry bag. And I've got flip-flops as well. This is the time of year I always invest in my one pair of flip-flops that I wear to death throughout a year. So I've got new ones on the way. From a food perspective, this is interesting. Food supplies are there. I mean, we're able to all get food, but the grocery stores are, interestingly, for the stuff that I use for camping, a lot of folks have been buying that up in the face of all of this virus and lockdowns and stuff like that, whether I'm out here in West Virginia or in DC. So I was able to get some stuff. I've got those Knorr Sidekicks, Knorr, if you're not in the States or in Canada. They're just, pastas and rice. They're usually $1 a piece. They're great for camping. They just need to be boiled up, and they're pretty tasty. Pretty salty, but pretty tasty. I got a big block of cheese because I am a big block of cheese guy when I'm camping. I've got 2 boxes of Pop-Tarts because why not? I eat sugar on a ride, may as well. Although Kimberly actually insisted on taking 2 of them, and I'm like, this could be the difference between life and death on the trail, Kimberly. She didn't care. She took 2 of my strawberry ones. So that's all right. I'll be all right. I got a big bag of trail mix. I've got tortillas. I'm getting another separate jar of peanut butter to go along the way. So I'm just going to slather tortillas with peanut butter and throw, trail mix or maybe, leftover pasta or stuff in there. I eat disgusting things in tortillas. I don't know about you when I'm camping, but I think that that'll be helpful for sort of some portable food on the way, the cheese as well. So I think that that'll be enough. I think that'll get me through. You'll notice that I'm sticking to my vegetarian ways on this particular trip. I'm not full. I would never take the label of vegetarian, but I've been really trending in that direction. So that's why you will notice that there is no meat in my diet for this ride. What are the rules on this particular ride? Well, here, let me tell you. Barring emergencies and barring mechanicals that I can't overcome myself, I'm not going to go into towns or shops. I think one could, in these social distancing times, do that. People are going to grocery stores and whatnot. But from my perspective, and this is my choice here, reducing contacts to 0 is, I think, the best way across the board. It just prevents things. It prevents me from getting sick, which prevents Kimberly from getting sick. It prevents maybe me spreading it unintentionally to other folks to the extent that who knows, I could have it and not even know it. I hope that's not the case, but that's something to be mindful of as well. By the way, if I do get sick between now and the time that I'm going to leave, I am obviously going to postpone this ride. So that kind of goes without saying. I'm not going to go riding around with any kind of illness of any type, flu, cold, COVID-19, whatever. Hey, if I run into folks on the trail, I'll interact with folks as usual. Hey, how you doing? But I'm just going to do it from a distance. They talk about 6 feet being a thing. That's especially going to be true in camp. If I run into anybody camping, it would be actually really fun and fascinating. I would love to run into folks who are camping. But you know what? I just don't expect it. I really don't. I don't think that bicycle touring is on the top of folks' minds right now in this region. I think folks are hunkering down a lot, and I just don't expect people to be out there. I don't know. It'd be a pleasant surprise if I ran into somebody. Night 2, as I mentioned, is going to be here at the cabin in West Virginia, particularly if the ride ends up being wet. But you know what? If things go differently, I know I'm going to be prepared, or at least I'm setting things up so that I don't need the cabin, but I do want the cabin because I would like this to be a nice, fun round trip that links these two things up. You know, it's kind of in a sense a missing link, a different version of the missing link. And while this is absolutely no missing link tour of Southern California, look, this is a trip that I've always wanted to do, a round trip to my cabin from DC using no fossil fuels and just my 2 legs and a bike. And you know what? Given everything that's going on in the world right now, I think that this will be really good for me. I hope it'll be fun for you to listen to. My intention is to record every single day. Whether I do 2 episodes, 3 episodes, 4 episodes, I don't know, but we're going to be doing Tour Journals volume whatever, because I dropped the volumes on this. I don't know what the name of this is going to be yet, but it's going to be a ride of the C&O. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm really looking forward to sharing this with you, if only for you to be able to kind of come along on the ride virtually as we always have, but maybe to serve as a little bit of inspiration that there is a way to get out there and be socially responsible in the face of all of this and get some exercise and get your head clear and get out into the world. I think it's really important. And that's why I'm doing it for myself. I'm doing it for you as well. So come along for the ride. Starting in a couple of weeks, this will be part of episode 200. It will be the beginning of the next tour of the C&O. I'm really looking forward to sharing it with you. Hope you're all healthy and happy and safe. Make sure you're washing your hands. I'm acting like your dad here, but I'm not. Go out there and get on your bike and go out and have some fun. Hey, one more thing I wanted to mention is to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to check out the happy hours that we've been doing with the Sprocket podcast. We've been calling this the Sprocket Shift Project Happy Hours. Take a look at pedalshift.net/happy hour. We're probably going to be doing these on a weekly basis, we're thinking. They're live. We do record them. They're probably going to end up in an audio format over on the Sprocket Podcast's feed. They will probably, I know this for the fact, they are on the video feed over at YouTube if you would like to check them out over on the Pedalshift Project's YouTube channel. So you've got opportunities to check them out if you would like to do this time shifted. But we really, really would like to interact with you live and in person. And we've done that for the last couple of times. We did it once on the 15th. We did it once on the 20th. Again, we're looking at probably doing them on a weekly basis. They're a lot of fun. They do use a platform called Zoom. It's free. It's easy to use. You can use it on your phone. You can use it on your computer. And we're having a topic every single show. And then we're interacting with folks. So come on down. It's really a lot of fun. Check it out. Pedalshift.net/happy hour for the next one. And we'd really love to see you there. We can have up to 100 people at once. We are nowhere near that at any given time. So we would love to fill the room as we go along with this. It's a lot of fun to really interact in real time. I unfortunately was going to be missing out on a trip out to Portland, where I was going to be recording a show with the guys from the Sprocket podcast, and this is going to just have to do in the interim, but it's really fun because we get to bring the communities together. So go check it out. Again, pedalshift.net/happy hour, and that's going to give you the date and time of the next Sprocket Shift Project Happy Hour. They're a lot of fun. Come join us. Have a drink. And as always, we like to close out the show with a special shout out to the Pedalshift Society. Because of support from listeners like you, Pedalshift is a weekly bicycle touring podcast with a global community, expanding into live shows and covering new tours like the Kessel Run and the Missing Link bike tours. If you like what you hear, you can support the show for $5, $2, or even $1 a month. And there's one-shot and annual options. If you're not into the small monthly thing, check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lean, Andrew McGregor, Michael Hart, Keith Nagel, Brock Didis, Thomas Skadow, Marco Lowe, Terrence Manson, Harry Telgadis, Chris Barron, Mark Van Ram, Brad Hipwell, Stuart Buchan, Mr. T, Nathan Poulton, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LaGreco, Cody Florchinger, Tom Beninati, Greg Braithwaite, Sandy Pizzio, Jeff Muster, Seth Pollock, Joseph Quinn, Drew Porter, Byron Patterson, Joachim Robber, Ray Jackson, Jeff Fry, Kenny Mikey, Lisa Hart, John Denkler, Steve Henkel, Miguel Quinones, Alejandro Aviles Reyes, Keith Spangler, Greg Towner, Dan Gebhardt, Jody Zeranin, Lucas Barwick, Michael Baker, Brian Bechtal, Reinhard Biggle, Greg Middlemas, Connie Moore, William Gothman, Brian Benton, Joan Churchill, Mike Bender, Rick Weinberg, Billy Crafton, Gary Matushak, Greg Latois Lopez, James Sloan, Jonathan Dillard, John Funk, Tom Bilch, Ronald Piroli, Dave Roll, Brian Hafner, Misha LeBlanc, Ari Messenger, David Grotke, Todd Grossbeck, Wally Estrella, Sue Reinert, John Lecko, Stephen Granada, Philip Mueller, Kevin Olhausen, Robert Lackey, Dominic Carroll, Jackie McCulloch, and John Hickman. And thanks also to all past and anonymous members for helping make this show happen. Thank you for joining. You can find Pedalshift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedalshift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.